Right. I've been thinking about this problem with my drag situation. Now, this is a possible solution I'm working on. Now, the normal problem with the magnet, right? So a magnet here, right, is that in order to overcome drag, normally what you would do is you would get two sets of magnets. Hang on a minute, I can't do this while I'm holding the phone. Right, now these two magnets are side by side, but one magnet is pulling. Oops, hang on. The other magnet is pushing. Now, the problem with having a magnet so close together is that the flux lines are just cancelling themselves out. So as soon as you back out, as soon as you start to back away slightly, the flux field will collapse because it's been drawn in by the magnet adjacent to it. Now, so when you try to do this to have a transitional point, normally the flux lines are just completely collapsed, so you lose all your power. How do you overcome it? Well, actually what you have to do is use longer magnets. So basically what you need is a long track. So instead of having cells north in say 20 millimeters, whatever, you have to have a whole bunch of magnets. Oops! I hate it when it does that. Hang on a sec. Hang on a minute. Right. Imagine we've got, I forget about the round ones, just a minute. Imagine we've got long rectangular magnets, right? And we've got an array, a long array of, say, let's say all of this. This is a good 25, I think that's 25 by 25, that's 50 millimeters. Let's check this a minute. Yeah, that's basically 50 millimeters. Okay, right. So let's say you've got a really nice long track of 50 millimeter magnets on a rotary system, and after the 50 millimeters, you immediately transfer. Now imagine that this one is. Let's just imagine this one is 50 millimeters and this one's 50 millimeters for now, because they're 25 actually, but it's just easier for me to show you what I'm doing. So let's imagine this is 50 and imagine this is 50, but this is south and this is north, right? So I put my gauge on. It deflects, okay, it's deflecting. So what we have now is we have a nice even transition, because what is length? What is the drag effect of a rotary system when you're moving or leaving a particular pole of magnetic flux? It's called reluctance. What is reluctance? It doesn't want to leave basically, or it's the, well, you know when you pull a wire off a coil and you get a spark, that is telling you that I don't want to be disconnected, I want to keep on flowing. So that is reluctance as well, because electrically it's telling you I don't want to leave, I want to be connected. So, right. Now, what I've been trying, you remember my little device I've been working on? I found out something. It actually works even better when I am transferring from one pole to another almost immediately, because I can't do this while I'm holding the phone very easily, so I'm going to have to try. Actually, just a minute, I've got an idea. Blue tack to the rescue. Right, so what I found out was that as I'm entering, I get a nice pull in, which is what you expect. Now, normally it exits easily, but because the other magnet is directly side by side, right? Because the other magnet is directly mounted next to it. This is south, this is north. It pulls in there. We get an initial pull. I need to put a transparent thing on there now. Hang on. Right, I've got this plastic CD, transparent CD thing. Right, this should help a little bit. Now, when I normally come on the entry point, it wants to enter, right? Okay. Now, in the previous test that I was doing with this thing, I found out there was very little drag on it. But what we need is another entry point close to that magnet, and it jumps. Look, it jumps, and I get the same kind of effect. But there's a little bit less reluctance. There's a little bit less permeance for it to leave. But I anticipate that when we have a load on the system, right, it will leave much more effectively because of the fact that this magnet is a different pole. So remember, when you load a system down, you have reluctance to leave that first pole or that first magnet, right? So this first magnet that's on south, it's reluctant to enter because of drag. It's also reluctant to leave because of drag. But when there's a load on the system, it will be drawn to the other pole. So what we have is a situation of balance where it will actually be drawn more to this other pole. So the drag that we normally would have seen leaving this first pole will be cancelled out by the attraction to the other pole. So when we put a load on the system, as it's leaving that first pole, it will be entering the second pole more easily. So what basically I would see happening is that as I load the system down, we'd actually gain speed, and that's what I want, because it's always easy to use a parallel regulator to permanently load something down. A parallel regulator is a resistive load that basically burns up power that's not being used. It's like a resistor. It's got a parallel regulator. You can look it up online. And so that when you put your real load on there, a real device like a light bulb, like a lot of motorcycles and in the 60s used parallel regulators where they had a big resistor on them and they pull the power down, and when you put your bulb on it, the bulb was a lower impedance than the resistor, so the bulb would take all the power. But basically, or you would switch in the resistor when the lights weren't in use. Anyway, that's basically what I'm talking about. So the principle is that instead of ever seeing a slowdown of the system, it would accelerate towards the next pole, because the other pole, it currently is not providing the power. It's the first pole. So once it accelerates towards that pole will energize the coil will be saturated, it will generate power, and then we'll go back to the other pole again, south pole. So there'll be, say, 1, 2, 3 all the way around the rotor. Anyway, that's the theory. That's what I think will work. We just have to have these, we have to make sure that these lengths of polarization are quite long. So it's a question of forcing some south pole, and then north pole, and then south pole. So we've got a nice gap, a nice large area for that particular pole. Otherwise, it would feed back on itself and cancel itself out. So, theory, technically, it should work fine. And we do actually have a good strong, well, we did until it flipped off, but we do have a good strong field coming through these laminations. So, yeah, as you can see. Very strong. So anyway, transmitting that energy through the device into the coil section shouldn't be a problem. It should work. What's happened to my magnet? Right. Anyway, so we'll just have to build some new rotors and test it out. That's all I can do, really. Thanks for watching.